Hello everyone, welcome on in. It's a new week here on Betting Weekly Studios, and we start every week, usually on a Monday, but today on a Tuesday, in the Betting Weekly Dojo, where myself and Neil Channing talk about the big stories in the world of sports betting, the big events that have happened, the weekend's review, and some strategies for make you a more successful sports bettor. Good morning to you, Neil. How are you? Another backdrop. You're back in the Antique Roadshow by the looks of things. How are you?
Yeah, back in lovely Devon for a while. I'm actually finding life a bit confusing because when we do the dojo on Tuesday, I spend the rest of the week not really knowing what day it is. I've actually been, I think I've said to 3 people in the last 2 days, I've got the day wrong. I thought it was Sunday for a while yesterday because we weren't doing the dojo, and I woke up this morning thinking it was Monday. So anyway, I've got a big week, and I need to remember what day the golf starts this week. But no, I'm good. I must admit, it's a bit weird not switching the TV on and finding tennis on. I've really watched a lot of Wimbledon. I think more than I ever have actually in the last couple of weeks. How are you finding, like, after it's finished? Is that a bit of a mental letdown?
Well, first of all, it is Tuesday. It's the year 2025. And I know if anyone tuned in, your backdrop might think you're in 1975, but it's actually 2025 on a Tuesday. Wimbledon, you know what? I've said it before, and I've said it on a lot of these shows before. I don't actually watch a lot of it. I watched the bits of the final, watched the women's final, watched the whole of the women's final, which was just incredible to watch. And one of the bad beats, I'll come on to that in a second. But I watched a couple of first
I was going to watch
matches.
the women's final, but I popped out to make a cup of tea, and when I came back, it had finished.
yeah. I had a dog bet, a greyhound bet, the 4:18 at Monmouth. It was over by the time the race was run. But it's joking aside, it was one of the biggest bad beats of the tournament for me. I mean, absolutely horrendous in terms of the bet. I mean, if anybody had watched the WTA show, you would have realised that I went through the stats. And, I love looking at the stats and trying to find.
You thought it was going to be a quick match, first of all, didn't you? And you thought that playing the first final was gonna be a big factor, and that she'd be really nervous.
Well, the first thing, yeah, obviously that's always a big thing. And the fact that she's beaten the world number one in the semi-final, there's obviously a come down, which I've said for many. I didn't expect it to be anywhere near that. Obviously on the final, she was a 3.5 underdog originally, and then the line moved to 4.5. I thought that Świątek would have, because Świątek starts fast. He always starts fast. There's a wave that she plays. I thought she'd probably cover the handicap, but that wasn't my main bet. And I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, people are tuning into this show. They're going to see me betting Świątek. So I thought what I'll do is I'll break down into some of the prop bets. So I looked at the amount of first of all, she played about 20, I think it was about 38, 40 games longer than Iga Świątek and Anisimova to get to the final.
That's a massive factor.
Matches.
Do you think people, because in all sports now, it's all analytics, isn't it? Everybody wants to look at numbers and analytics. When I watch quite a few tennis things and listen to people talking about tennis and previewing games and stuff, I don't really hear people using that as a method of analysis, the number of games that they've played in the tournament up until that point. Surely that seems like a really good stat and one that people should use all the time.
It is, and I think Sean uses the hours they've been on court, so he would more look at the hours of court. So he'd say a guy's been involved in a 5-hour match, another guy's been involved in a 2-hour match. So he would use the hours. So that similar kind of thinking. But I think the other thing is that she played long matches in big championship games, like semi-finals and quarterfinals. She played like 30-game matches, whereas the longest that Świątek played was in round 1 or round 2, where she played a 27-game match. She breezed through the other one. So she used up not only physical energy, she used mental energy going into the final as well.
Yeah.
I was always thinking about getting with her, but I thought, I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delve into the prop markets. So I started off with the double faults, and the amount of double faults that Anisimova had served was insane, absolutely insane. And I worked it out, the average. If you looked at her double faults and you looked at Świątek's double faults, the match should have been in for 8.5 if you were looking at 21.5 as the midpoint of the total game. So 8, and the line was 8.5. So Nothing was factored in. It was a final. Nothing was factored in that Anisimova might freeze on the big occasion. So 8.5 was the line. They obviously put up 8.5 as a massive bet. It was 6-love, 6-love.
And I think what was it? What was 8.5? Was it $1.10 each way? I can't remember.
Yeah, $1.10 each way. And so I thought 8.5 was a maximum bet. Played quite big on the prop. Got through 2 or 3 people to get me on the prop, so I had quite a decent sized prop. Reading it absolutely right. You get 7 double faults in 12 matches. You know, by the law of averages.
In 12 games.
12 games, sorry. If you look at if it carried on to the midpoint of 21.5, 9.5, we would have sour past that line. And it obviously,
well, even if it had been like 6-2, 6-2 or something, you probably would have gone over.
Yeah, and the other point, if she did make it competitive and there was really nervy, crucial points, then that could have hit massive. So we read the match completely right, but ended up with a losing bet, which is demoralising and something that. All weekend I've been thinking about it. And the other one, but this is the beauty of it. So when you looked at talking about prepping for markets, so I looked at the total aces. I might have the stats here actually. I think I might have them in front of me. Anyway, I looked at the total aces. I went through the draw, and the total aces line was again in for about the right line. You know, if you look at the aces that Świątek has served, I've got it here, right? So you had Świątek in for, Świątek was in for 0.1 aces per game, per game. So, you know, 21.5 service match games, 0.18 per game gives her ace line. But Anisimova is in for 0.16. So the aces were pretty much bang level. But then I thought, well, that line looks about right. But I delved in further, and this is something what you should do when you're looking at tennis props in particular, or any kind of prop. Find a little, so that line can be. But then I thought, I wonder how many times, because Świątek is a bit of a scurrier. She runs around the court. She chases every point down. I thought, I wonder how many times she's been aced in this tournament. Not the fact how many aces she's got, how many times that she's been aced against. And that just come up with some fantastic, look, she didn't get aced in the semi-final. She didn't get aced in the quarter-final. She didn't get aced in the round 2 when she played 27 games. She got aced once in the last. So then I thought, hang on a minute, there is a huge angle here. And the angle was on Anisimova not to get any aces. But it was, I sort of stumbled across it by luck.
I saw something in the run-up to the game. They were saying that she stands back maybe a yard and a half more than she was last year. She was getting the returns over quicker last year, and sending her opponent off kilter, but she was hitting the ball out too many times on the return. And now she's made the policy of stepping back and receiving the service from a little bit further back, which means presumably she'd be less likely to get aced, I would have thought. I don't know. Am I right?
I don't know the reasoning why, but I just presume that the thing is she's all energy. You only got to see her in the warm up the way that she plays. She runs around. She's a hustler. She doesn't. But
it's funny.
So just
obviously we're the dojo and we like to try and think about bets going forward and what we can learn for future betting opportunities. Now, we have both said in the past that in tennis tournaments, you should definitely be having more bets in the early rounds when it's, players that are harder. They don't meet each other so regularly. If you get 2 players that have met each other 7 times before, you've got 7 lots of prices to look at. It's pretty hard for the market to get it wrong this time. If you've got somebody that's only met once or never met before, or they met once 2 years ago, or they met on a different surface, it's really hard to price up, or it's harder to price up, and there's more likely to be a mistake. So generally we would say, I think you definitely agree with me on this, that you should have more bets in the first round than you have in the final. But it's interesting also because the final, especially on a Grand Slam final, is one of the rare opportunities that you get all these props. Like obviously when we talk about sports like NFL, they started years ago. You never got props on a normal game. You just get it on the Super Bowl. Now you get props on, 3 or 4 games every Sunday. And it's quite common, but in tennis, it's not really like that, is it? Even in the semi-final, they don't really have like loads and loads of props. And if they do have them, the markets are so illiquid and it's hard to get much down. Whereas I think in the Wimbledon final, you can get plenty on, can't you? And lots of firms are competing. There's differences in prices. It's really worth looking at this kind of stuff, I think, these days.
Yeah, I think the takeout from this tournament for me, if you're going to play this prop again, I think Iga Swiatek matches. If you're any sportsbook, if Bet Rivers or any other sportsbook decide to do a prop on aces, whoever she's playing, try to bet on her under aces. If it's 1.5, 2.5, it doesn't matter who it is. The biggest server one of the biggest servers in the women's game is Ludmila Samsonova, and she didn't even ace Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon. It was a slow court at Wimbledon. So at the US Open, if there's a statistical line that comes out on Iga Swiatek's opponent, you want to bet the under her aces. Or if you can get a price of no ace, under a half an ace at a big price, you've got to do that. And the other takeout is whoever Iga Swiatek is playing, she will play to her average. And if you can get her to get the more aces, or you can get her on a handicap with more aces, it's a takeout for me this tournament. And as far as Anisimova is concerned, I mean, God knows what state she's going to be in for the US Open after that capitulation. I mean, I've seen a lot of Instagram posts where she's with her family, she's spending time off at the moment, and she's doing all the right things. But
is that how you're recovering from your bad beat, Nigel?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was recovering, but my dog got injured the other day, and I'm not very happy about that. So that was a bad.
Well,
took her for a walk.
But the good news is
my week.
Well, when you go to the vet, the good news is you've got all those
£6,000, Neil.
6,000.
I asked the vet if it would take some Stansky bus. 6,000 to get the dog done if it needs a ligament surgery.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, chasing a tennis ball, just chasing a tennis ball. Bosh the shoulder.
That was the most expensive tennis game of the whole week for you, then.
The tennis has caused me carnage this weekend. Anisimova couldn't serve any sevens, more than 7 double faults. A tennis ball's going to cost me $6,000. Shalansky bucks would have been. I mean, I had a horse last night that would have paid something, and it traded minus 5,000 in a photo finish, and it was a dead heat. So. It's
shocking behaviour.
We talk about going through bad beats. I've had some really, really bad beats this weekend, and I'm trying to
Before we stop talking about tennis, I don't want to drive you mad talking about tennis. It's a sore subject, but I did watch you talking with Sean and also with Rory, which I think you recorded both of those on Sunday, and they went out yesterday. I watched both of those. I always watch all the tennis content. On Because We Win. I think it's great, and I think everybody should do that. Hit like, hit subscribe. But it was funny because you used the expression. I don't even know if any American people watching knew what that expression meant. After the Lord Mayor's show, which is an expression. It's a very old-fashioned expression, but it's funny. It's still one that people use a lot in the UK, and it basically means. I don't know what the American equivalent of it is, but it means that when something really, it's like. When the Pro Bowl used to be the week after the Super Bowl, you might say that was after the Lord Mayor's show. You have a fantastic event followed by a, pretty crappy event that nobody really cares about. And I sort of felt like a little bit with the tennis this week. Obviously we had brilliant Wimbledon and everything, lots of great matches, top players. And then there's 2 fairly low-key events on the tour. And I suggest that most punters would think the solution here is to bet much smaller. These are just nothing events where anything could happen. Lots of players that you're not so familiar with. Possibly, back to clay again. Some people playing on a surface they don't really like. Maybe just keep stakes to the smallest. I'm going to say that's not a good idea, though. I'm going to say that really, if you're betting. On a match between Alcaraz and Sinner when they've met so many times before, and we know that they're number 1 and number 2, and they're easily the best 2 players in the world. You shouldn't really be finding that a great time to have a big bet, because, what are you going to know that the market doesn't know? But if you're, I can't remember where these tournaments are this week now. There's 2 with very similar names on the men's tour, isn't there?
Borstad. Switzerland and Sweden in the men's, and Romania and Hamburg for the women's.
And if you're playing on those, I would have thought you could have a much bigger edge than you'd ever find in Alcaraz against Sinner. Would you agree with me?
Yes, definitely. And I've followed your words up this morning. Actually, no, well, the reason I say after Lord's Mayor Show is the quality of the tournament is absolutely diabolical. There's one of these women's tournament where only 3 women in it out of 32 are in the top 100 of the world. And one of the girls who's seeded is like 144 in the world ranking. She's seeded. It's like low quality in terms of that. But I think that makes the favourite, who is plus 550, an absolutely fantastic price, because she's won 3 tournaments on clay. She's played at the highest echelons of clay court tennis. She's from the country where the tournament is, and she's the number 1 player in her country. So it's a half-empty stadium. She plays. It becomes more capacity, more. She's got something to play for. And in this tournament before, it's been going for 3 years, and Romanian players have won it in 2. So I think that edge of plus 550.
I can't believe you're not speaking to me from Romania, really. How have you not gone? Is Sean on his way there?
I need a break. I need a little break before the football season. I was supposed to go to the Isle of Wight this weekend, but obviously the dog, we had to cancel that, and now with the dog injury, I can't even afford it unless there's a travel agent takes Slansky bucks. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere for the foreseeable future. But your argument, yes, I've had more money on her to win that tournament in Romania than I did on anybody at Wimbledon to win. I mean, I bet Jessica Pegula and I bet Annie Samova, but I only had like £50 each way on the 2 of them. This girl, I've had like 4 times the amount of that. So there's a much bigger edge there. And on and there's a match today. Now, Sean never gave this match as a bet, which was
let me quickly get my.
Well, it started already. You missed the boat. You missed the boat, mate. But we mentioned it. We mentioned it on.
Just hang on a minute. Just a minute. Just let me just.
No, you said you watched the show. If you watched the show, you would have seen it. If you're missing these kind of things, you've got to subscribe, Neil. You probably only skipped to the bits that Sean said. But I tell you what, it was exclusive on the newsletter this week. If you got the newsletter this week, it was my bet.
How do you get the newsletter? What do I need to do to get the newsletter?
You need to just register it at bettingweeklystudios.com. It's free. That's what you got to do.
Where do I find it?
Free.
I go to that and I just look
on a
for
Monday and a
newsletter.
Friday. Go to that website, put your email in, and you'll get the newsletter Monday and Friday. Anyway,
so what you're saying is somebody would be crazy not to do that. Basically, is what you're saying.
Yes, and it sounds like you are crazy. You're not doing it, so make sure you do that. I made a case for Manuel Cerundolo. Manuel Cerundolo. His brother's Francisco Cerundolo. He was plus 130 to win today against Jean Lederstruff. Jean Lederstruff had played 7 matches on clay this year, lost 6, won 1. The only one he won was because his opponent retired in the middle of the match. And he was plus 130. John Lederstruff is coming to the end of his career. And I bet him on the handicap. And I had probably a 3 times bigger bet on that match, on those 2 markets, than I did on anything at Wimbledon. So
how's that one working out?
Well, Cerundolo's won. Cerundolo, my man's won the first set, so he's minus $3 in play. So. And you would have got that on the newsletter, but Sean never put it down. But what you're going back to your point, yes, your edge is on these other tours. 8,000 people watched our Sinner v Alcaraz preview, which is brilliant, and thank you very much. And then happily people look searching Sinner and Alcaraz wanted an in. But if you want an edge on tennis, you want to be watching the first round preview of these 4 250 events this week, which will give you a much bigger edge and much more statistics. You will make more money on those than you will do at Wimbledon, even though we had a very good Wimbledon. So I agree with your point entirely. But the Sinner Alcaraz game, I mean, the market called that brilliant. Everyone in the world. Sinner went from plus 110 down to minus 125.
Well, that's another interesting thing because despite what I said, in both finals, there were quite big market moves, weren't there? When
Massive
you would think both in the women and the men's, when you would think that it's almost impossible for the early line to move at all, because how can anyone have extra information?
I think what happened with the Sinner one was that the market thought Sinner was injured after the Dimitrov match, and then the whole market went crazy. You could bet him at like 4-1 to win Wimbledon.
I remember.
And then all of a sudden he played 2 matches.
I think you're definitely right. That's what happened.
And the market then realised there's nothing wrong with him.
There was a slight perception in that price. That was basically what put me off having a bet on him. And I thought, no, I don't want to take a chance because his elbow is so strapped up. But Yeah, I mean, he looked fit as a fiddle, didn't he, really?
And then with the other one, it was just the case that people just thought Anisimova may have tanked it in terms of what she'd done, all those stats of playing that amount of
I
tennis
tell you
before.
what I thought with her, I don't know whether you saw that. They were showing in the build-up about half an hour before they started playing. They showed her coming out onto the court with her tennis bag, and she was talking to one of the ball girls, and the ball girl suddenly came back with a load of Wimbledon towels for her, and she started storing them in her bag. And then she said to the ball girl, "Can I get some more?" And the ball girl went off again. She came back. It was like because it was her first Wimbledon final, she was going to get a souvenir towel for like every single mate of hers, everybody on Facebook, everybody for a charity auction or whatever, everybody in her family. She must have picked up 60 towels and put them in her bag. Wimbledon must have run out of towels. And I thought, God, if that's what you're thinking, I might never get to do this again. This might be my only chance. This is not a good sign.
Well, she certainly threw the towel in, didn't she? That was one thing she did. She's walking around. Hold on her Instagram account. She's walking around with a Wimbledon baseball cap on, so she's like trying to.
She loves the merch. She does. Absolutely loves it.
Well, that was also last week. The other thing was last week, which was good. 3 test matches, Neil, no draw.
No, actually, the England-India match, that was crazy, actually. It was a great match. It went back and forward. India traded about minus 600 at one point, and England came back to win. But the draw got down to plus 125 at one stage. I faded it 2 or 3 times in the game, but I did actually fade it at the lowest price it ever got to, which was quite good. And then, the West Indies played Australia. They've actually played twice since we spoke last time, and neither matches. They were big prices to be a draw. I think plus 900, plus 1,000. But you didn't have to sweat too much on either of those. I don't think we've had. I don't think we've had a draw. We had a gap with no test matches for about two months, and since we've come back from that gap, there hasn't been a single draw. So I can't remember how many we had in the January-February period. Maybe 3. I think we might be on 3 for the year.
It's incredible, that, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. I mean, he's still getting the crazy prices. I mean, so there's your edge there. The draw in the test match has been banging on. Iga Swiatek never gets ace. So there was a guy who said that he was really thankful that he was following us, and we've helped his bank. And obviously he's
Jody.
On the draw.
We like Jody.
Jody. Yeah. Hello, Jody. One thing I'm going to say to you, which we didn't really mention, but I think I could have mentioned. We didn't say it in the brief today. The World Series of Poker's reached the final table, and there was a bit controversial, wasn't it? There's a bit controversial. One guy got thrown out. There's a woman through to the final. I mean, I don't know if you've been looking at that. If you've got any people are betting on that, and if there's any, it's betting on.
I haven't seen any betting prices on it. I know all of the characters involved. The guy who was very annoying and got thrown out has always been very annoying, and I'm actually Facebook friends with him, and I did look on his timeline, and lots of people on his timeline were being, I guess because they're Facebook friends or acquaintances, they were being a lot more forgiving than most of the people on my Twitter, who seemed to think he should be kicked out of the country and he was an idiot. I don't know. There was some suggestion that he may not have had his meds with him for this trip, and he's got some mental health problems. So I don't really want to be too down on him, but he's incredibly annoying to play with, and always has been. In the final, though, Michael Mizrachi has made the final, and he won the Players' Championship, which is sort of considered to be the proper World Championship. It's a 50 grand buy-in, and they play multiple different types of poker. He won that for, I can't even remember now, it was the 4th time or the 3rd time. I think it was the 3rd time, which I'm going to get this wrong now. Probably you can Google it, or you can tell me. I get something wrong every week when somebody puts it in the comments. It was either the 3rd or the 4th, and it was either his 7th or his 8th bracelet. If he wins, he's not even going to be the player of the year, because there's been 3 people that have had amazing performances this year in the series. But that seems a bit ridiculous. Then there's a Belgian guy who lives in London I don't really know him. I think I've spoken to him a couple of times, but he's a terrific guy, and everybody loves him, and he's doing quite well. And yeah, there's a lady in the final, and I have played with her quite a few times. She's always been a brilliant player. She's a really nice person, and yeah, I'm cheering for her really. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting. I mean, I think I haven't really been following the poker as carefully in the last few years. I haven't been travelling the circuit or playing any big tournaments at all. So I'm way less interested in it than I used to be. But I would say that I always tune into the World Series, and the last couple of years when I've tuned in to the World Series, I've looked at the final and thought, I don't know any of these people. I have no idea who they are. And this one, I think I've definitely played with Mizrachi quite a few times. So I think I said Robert Mizrachi, that's his brother. It's Michael Mizrachi, who's actually the much more successful of the two. But yeah, I've played with Michael Mizrachi like back in the noughties, really. Maybe 2005. I played with him quite a lot. And Leo Margits is the lady, and yeah, she's been a sponsored pro for many years, and she's a great player. She might be one of the best players from Spain. And yeah, I think there's one or two other quite good players in the final. Kenny Hallett is the guy from London who's a Belgian player. Yeah, I think those three are probably the strongest on paper, but obviously they haven't got the most chips going in. So, and there's one or two others that are pretty decent. And there's also a couple of sort of hometown heroes as well. So, you know, it's fun. It's fun. I haven't seen any betting on it, but
I did see some odds. I did some odds coming out the other day when they got to the final table. I did see some odds.
There probably are some odds. I just haven't really got round to looking today. But I guess I probably would back Leah if she was about 5-1, 9-2, something like that, plus 450.
What would that do in terms of poker, Neil? if a woman won it, I mean, would that?
I think that would be terrific. Yeah.
No, but obviously the sport. I mean, the sport's had its ups and downs over the years. Sometimes it's massively it's high. Sometimes it's been really low. Having a woman win the World Series of Poker must put it. Well, it's a story. It's a news story.
For 25 years now, poker tournaments generally are 95% blokes, 5% women. The number has been as low as 3% and as high as 6%, but it's always in that region. There's never been a time where it's been 10%. And there's, you know, I'm sure there's multiple reasons for it, but I think generally it's a fairly unwelcoming environment. I've seen horrendous misogyny at the poker table, and people are, you know, it's like they come from the 19th century, some of the people, or they've never seen a woman before. I think it would be great if women felt more comfortable playing poker and wanted to come and were made to feel that it was no big deal. And I think this can only help. Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, that would be great, actually. I've had some big bets on poker in the past, actually. But yeah, I certainly hadn't really looked at it this year, and I'm going to have a look now. You've said I hadn't even really thought about it. I'm not tuned into it in that way. I'm very busy this week with the golf. Obviously, that's the other thing.
Well, I was going to have a week just before you went. I was going to have. I'm very heavily on the Spanish women to win the women's European football championship. I think they're an absolute good thing at -110. So I might have a Spanish woman double here, parlay. Spanish woman to win the World Poker Championships and the Spanish women to win the I might double it up.
I did watch England beat Wales the other day. I can't remember now. Was it 6-1 or 5-6-1? 6-1. Yeah. I should think the 1 was a very good result for the bookmakers, really, because I think 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0 would have been very popular, correct scores. Yeah, I think that 1 goal probably saved them a bit of money. But yeah, I haven't watched. I can't say I've watched too much of that. But no, this week I'm very much looking forward to the golf. It's from Northern Ireland, from Portrush, and it's the Open. Now, there's a few things I won't talk about. I'm doing a live show for you guys on Wednesday. It's what time is that, Nigel? I can't remember now.
It's 4:00 local time in the UK, so it'll be 11:00 Eastern time. I'm on it as well. I'm going to be hosting it, and it'll be yourself and Simon Holton, our golf expert as well. So be good.
Okay. Well, so I won't give away what I'm going to talk about in terms of who I fancy to win the tournament. But I'll make a few broad points. One is that the Open is slightly more random than other golf tournaments, than the other golf majors. We know in the Masters that obviously they play at Augusta National every single year and always have done in the Masters. So that means that you get a consistency of course form. People that have done well there in the past always do well there again. And it's very different. And people that have never played there before struggle. And people that have only played there once or twice take a while to get used to the greens, generally speaking. So for that reason, I think the Masters, you can really eliminate players a lot quicker, and it's harder to look down the list when you're looking at the prices. The Open, the weather is a massive factor. It can be extremely windy in the morning and then calm right down in the afternoon. And that can suddenly change very quickly. So sometimes you get a situation where one half of the field have a huge disadvantage. And obviously, if you've backed somebody like Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy at a short price and they happen to be in the wrong half of the draw, that's really going to screw you. And you're maybe not getting a big enough price to compensate for that. Also, it's slightly random in terms of the ball can run off and land in one of these enormous bunkers where you can immediately drop a shot. And, if it just bounces in slightly the other direction, it stays on the fairway. And that's kind of fairly random. So there's random elements to it, which make me think, generally speaking, out of all of the majors, I'm way less comfortable backing one of the favourites in the Open than I would be in another major. Just a few other things on the Open for sort of general points. I find people sometimes ask me, I do a write-up for Betting Emporium at www.bettingemporium.com, which will appear UK time 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And I go detailed through it from a betting point of view. Lots of stats, lots of betting. And people sometimes say to me, why do you spend all the time talking about who's going to win the tournament outright and not talking about maybe the 72-hole match bets or, who's going to be the top Canadian or the top left-hander or the top past champion or, those kind of bets. And I would say the place terms that you're getting are just so good. I think Bet Rivers are doing a 5th versus 7. And I just think those extended terms where you can have a guy play 7th and still make money just offer you such a big edge that you have to get properly involved. And I think if you've got, I don't know, say you're staking 100 units over the Open, I would skew it towards 3/4 of the money you're staking to be on the outright and only 25% on maybe day by day, first round 3-ball bets or 72-hole match bets or top nationality, top Korean or whatever. I wouldn't focus so highly on those because I think the outright just gives you really good value. The other thing, of course, if you're betting bigger prices, and I'm not saying you should be betting people who are 200 to 1. I just think you should be more comfortable, leaving out the top people and having 3 or 4 people at, between 30 to 1 and 50 to 1. Maybe that kind of region, or 25 to 1 and upwards. It means that you're going to have longer losing runs. And I did notice in we look at the questions on YouTube, and somebody posted and said, how do you know what a long losing run is? What's the long run? That was more the question. What's the long run? You sort of say, if you keep having good bets like your tennis bet, you're going to win in the long run. Well, what is the long run? And that's a good question. And the answer to your question is, well, it just depends what kind of prices you're betting. If you are betting mostly things at, pick 'em, minus $1.10, maybe you get better price, shop around, get minus $1.05, maybe you get even money, maybe you have to take minus 120. But you bet things around that price all the time. It's very unlikely you're going to ever have 20 consecutive losers. But if you do that kind of bet every day for the rest of your life, it's absolutely certain at some stage you'll have 20 consecutive losers, and you could be a very successful and winning punter and still have 20 consecutive losers. If you bet outright on golf tournaments, and generally you look at kind of the people who are 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th best player in the field, you're going to be betting a lot of 25 to 1 chances. And well, I can tell you that it's very routine to have 20 consecutive losers. And if you do that every day for the rest of your life, it would not surprise me at all to find out you'd had 200 consecutive losers, and you could definitely still be a winning customer and have 200 consecutive losers. Obviously, we talked last week about like beating closing line value, and that's one way of assessing how the long run is likely to work out. You know, if you started betting for the first time ever today, and you bet things at only things between even money and minus 120, yes, it's possible that in 20 days' time, having one bet a day, you'll have had 20 losers, no winners. But by the end of the year, you still turn out to be a winning punter. That is possible. But one way of trying to find that out before you get 2 months in is to say, well, I keep betting things at minus 110 and the closing line keeps being minus 130. The Sklansky Bucks line is looking very healthy. That's going to help you to figure out the long run quicker than if you have to wait 3 months to find out, by which time you may be living in the streets. I don't know. Does that answer the question? Is that a good answer?
Yeah, certainly, definitely answers the question. I mean, you've got to look at our WTA show where we've been going since January, and we haven't had one winner on the WTA show, but the match bets on the WTA over Wimbledon and on the ATP Tour show have been smashing it. So depending on your stakes, depending on how your levels are. I know last week Neil paid his internet bill with his Selansky bucks after he cut out on us at the end of the show. So
Sorry
hopefully, my bets I've had this week with all these kind of value, the Selansky buck line has gone up. And hopefully the vet will accept Selansky bucks from me when I go in there this weekend to pay for the dog's operation. If fingers crossed, he doesn't need one or she need one.
Hopefully,
Neil,
I'm kind of imagining that the vet's going to turn to the dog and say, "I'm afraid we're going to have to put him down, and you're going to get an injection, Nigel."
Well, there've been a lot of people wanting that to happen. But anyway, there is loads of coverage here on the Betting Weekly Studios as well. Obviously, there's been a bit of a dull time in a period of time, obviously, about Wimbledon and obviously at the World Club Championships where Donald Trump
I don't know
was
why
celebrating.
I'm not finding the Open dull. I'm not finding the Open dull. You need more bets.
Well, yeah, that's coming. I'm just about to say it. These couple of days we've got the Open Championships. Neil's working very hard in the Open Championships. But as we said in this show on the Dojo, some of the best value is in these lower tournament events. So make sure you're watching. Listen to those little pearls of wisdom what the handicapping team give you on these shows. Last night we covered the Swedish League, and Jack Wright gave us a massive price winner in over 1.5 goals in the first half. Now, a winner's a winner. Doesn't matter if it's the Swedish League, the Premier League, the Austrian League, the Azerbaijan League. A winner pays the same whatever you do. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really, really important. I think last week we were hoping for 10,000 subscribers during the show. We didn't quite get it, but we smashed the 10,000. We've now got 10,200 of you. This is going to be one of our highest ever months in terms of views and subscribers. And thank you very much. If you want the exclusive content, you have to go to the newsletter and the Insider. There is a full guide to the Open Championship available now. Subscribe at bettingweeklystudios.com. And hopefully my plus 130 tennis pick, which I gave on there, is going to win. He's won the first set. He's going with serving set number 2. And he's minus $3. Selansky bucks are looking good there as well. That's it for the Betting Weekly Dojo this week. Any questions, put them in the inbox. We'll answer them again. But what do people got to do, Neil, before they go? Sign us off.
Well, I think they should definitely hit like. It'd be great if they comment, if they got any questions to ask us for next week or anything they liked or didn't like about this show. And press subscribe because... well, I mean, I don't want to start nagging about 20,000 already. Well, let's get to 10,100, 10,300. That'd be nice.
Very nice indeed. Have a good week. Enjoy the show. Remember, myself and Neil are back on Wednesday, tomorrow, to preview the Open Championships alongside our golf handicapper Simon Holden. Always good fun with Simon. The three of us will be there 4 o'clock local time, 11 o'clock Eastern on Betting Weekly Live. Loads of content as well, stateside and Betting Weekly Tennis Live tomorrow as well on what is the fastest growing sports betting YouTube channel. Take care, and we'll speak to you all again next week.